We are live. Welcome to the RG DFS Tournament Takes podcast. I'm your host, Chris Kirkwood, screen name Kirk D's, here with my two boys, like I am usually each week. Killer B2482, Brett Hartfiel, and Canada's number one DFS player, Tyler Tamboline. Toe tag and Tambo. What's up, fellas? I'm coming off of a good week. I'm on a heater, except if you count Showdown last night. But other than that, I'm doing well. How did week 7 go for both of you guys?
Week 7 was, I think it was a small profit. I think it was so weird because, I mean, in spots where I did have Tyler Lockett and some Seattle stacks, obviously those sites went up, and that was like my FanDuel exposure, which I didn't have much. But yeah, kind of broke even-ish over on Yahoo, and then DraftKings had a decent profit also, but nothing crazy. It was just like the chalk all got there. So in a lot of the tournaments where I took some shots, it didn't work out. I didn't have too many Devontae Adams and Tyler Lockett lineups going, and just still getting probably crushed by paying up at running back a little too much with them not coming through with ceiling games, right? I mean, Kamara had a monster game. You throw in a few more touchdowns, and obviously it's going to change the outlook of the week. But I was there, but didn't no monster scores. Tambo, how was your week 7?
It was not the best. It's like I said, the chalk gets there. It's not going to normally be a pretty good week for me. Has some good calls. Burrow, Devontae Adams with Rodgers, the bounce back there with everyone on the running game, and just mixing it around, something like that. But overall, not the best week. It was a good golf week, which made up for it. So I was happy about that. But I'm here to talk football, and I just should have listened to Kirk D's, man. Get the James Robinson in your lineup, and you're all set. Talk about your week, man.
Yep. James was my big play over on Yahoo. I was the only one with him pretty much. So basically the way I looked at that was, and I had, the way I play on Yahoo is like, I just have like either one or two main lineups and everything. So I looked at that, like I knew Jamal Williams was going to be chalk. And I really thought that it was going to be the Aaron Rodgers Devontae show. And so I also thought that Dylan was going to get more work than he actually did get. But the similar price point that I knew nobody was going to play was James Robinson. And then once that COVID news hit for Chris Thompson, I was like, this guy is like the best play. And I just jammed him in everywhere. I was a little scared, but knowing that I was going to be alone on that island, but that worked out. Monster game. And then on DK, my main lineup was the chalky Arizona stack, Kyler to Kirk and Nuke, bring it back with Lockett. I surrounded it with running back chalk, Gio, Jamal, and Kamara. Then I had Cook in there. And, I mean, it was just chalk surrounded with that. And I basically, if Kirk catches that last catch where they went to him in the end zone at the end, I win all the money. But I had a really, really good week. So this was my best NFL week.
Dude, just even Devontae over Kamara in that one. I mean, it's a big difference too, right?
What did I
think that was like a 20-point differential.
Maybe I didn't even have Kamara in there maybe I had a receiver. I don't remember. I don't know. I think I had Kamara in there, but I don't know if I did. That may be fake news. Election week coming up, huh? And you're cramming in all those Biden bets, huh? I
was getting bored this week, man. I had to jump on over to the politics gambling. I can't believe like just how much the markets are over on the Trump side, but it kind of makes sense, if you're fiscally like conservative, have some money to throw around. That, I mean, most people are betting with their hearts and not the brains. So yeah, getting down some money on Biden in different states seems like a pretty easy equity at this point.
I'm just hoping he wins Pennsylvania. I mean,
yeah, I got money down there too.
Financially, that's my. All right, so here we are, week 8. We got 11 games. We got some weather. I don't know what to make of it all, but there's definitely some weather issues in the Raiders-Browns game, Minnesota-Green Bay, New Orleans-Bears, wind, cold, rain, depending on which game you're looking at here. So the way I approach that is I just let the totals guide me. If we see a big drop, then I start to get concerned. So I'm definitely, concerned with this, the Raiders-Browns game, because that's, it opened up at a massive, almost a 56-point total. It's down to a 49.5. And then we have what? We have one dome game. Is that true?
Yeah, Detroit. Indianapolis at Detroit.
So we know the blitz is going to be all over that bad boy. The Cardi loves him some domes, so that will be popular, at least from all you RG guys that are listening and using the blitz projections. We've got games that stick out to me. So the game with a nice the monster total is San Fran with their banged up D, and also without Deebo Samuel. They're just 3-point underdogs to Seattle, and Seattle, who is like missing their entire backfield potentially, with Carson most likely not going to be suiting up, but they're saying he's questionable, but I don't think he's going to go. With Carlos Hyde banged up, although is he out already or no?
I think he was questionable last time I looked.
Doubtful right now. Yeah.
Doubtful.
Yeah, doubtful. And then Homer, we'll see on the stats for him. So it could be that they're just left with DJ Dallas. Maybe Homer, a banged up Homer plays, but regardless, this is not the same running, the backfield that we're used to. And with the way that Seattle's moving the ball through the pass, they're just continuing to light it up. So I don't see them getting away from the pass this week. I just see them, pushing more on it. And man, Lockett balled out. Like, you knew in that game last week, first catch of the game for Lockett, was just such a ridiculous catch. I was like, this guy is going off. And he made some absolute amazing catches. I think his last TD where the ref made the right call. The official made the right call, and then they overturned it on the field. And luckily they had the timeout to challenge it. Man, what kind of an alpha official comes in and overturns the call when he's wrong? Right? He comes to the guy that was right in front of him. It was right in front of that called it right. That was crazy. Anyways, so that's a game with some fantasy goodness. Other games, the one I really like is Tennessee Bengals. That totals drops for some weather, but we're going to see a ton of Derrick Henry, but I think Ryan Tannehill is interesting in the passing game in this matchup too as well. But regardless, nobody's chucking the ball more than Joe Burrow with his receiving core. Also they kind of catered their offensive game plan with Gio last week to, kind of utilize him in the passing game. They were less run heavy without Mixon, which makes a lot of sense. I think we probably see that same kind of game plan again this week. So that game has shootout potential. I would love to be on this Packers side, at least the way that they looked last week against the Vikings in this divisional game. But with the weather, I don't know. I'll be interested to hear your guys' thoughts. That total's dropped 5.5 points. And then we go to, Cardi's favorite, the Dome, where the Colts, 3-point favorites over the Lions, 50-point total. And then Rams, Dolphins could be potentially interesting, at least to me, 46-point total. I don't know. And then just some other games and random plays. But what's the big picture of the slate for each of you guys?
Yeah, I think there's just a lot more variables involved with this week, right? I mean, we're dealing with a lot of injuries, right? So just understanding usage and roles, I think, is going to be huge with people that step in. And then weather, and not trying to outthink certain weather spots, right? I feel like anytime I've made big decisions on weather, it's usually been bad financially for me. So try not to, you brought up the Tennessee at Cincinnati. And I think with the up pace situation in that game, I want to stay on that game regardless of weather. And it doesn't seem as extreme as the other Midwest games. So, Yeah, I think there's just a lot more variables this week that you kind of got to take in. But a lot of it is going to be centered around just injuries and people stepping in, and then the weather. Tambo, what's the synopsis for you this week?
Similar in a sense, but kind of the opposite on that one. I think the big game we're going to talk a lot about in the chalk and everything goes with it is the Tennessee-Cincinnati game. Everyone loves it. Burrow throws it a ton, all the value plays, etc. When you're talking about A.J. Green being up there in ownership this week, like it's his bounce back turn, weather, all these factors. The big deal is for me right now, I'll have to wait and see, but 3 O-linemen, left tackle, right tackle, everyone down for Cincinnati, and it's going to be this massive game. Everyone wants to get after it. I'll risk the weather in other games, and there's already games that you can stack up, whether they're owned or not, which they will be, but like San Francisco, Seattle, love it. Chargers and Denver even, wouldn't mind that one. Definitely still, weather aside, sticking with the Raiders and the Browns. I just like these games more. Like I think in a game like the Raiders and the Browns, you could have a guy like Derek Carr who you're like, well, that's no good in the weather or whatever, but then you're going to have him chuck into a guy like Waller on a quick slant that's 5 yards that can absolutely catch the ball, catch a dude slipping, and then he's off to the races, to the house. And he's popular, but will that side of the ball be popular with those guys that go with it? So I think there's a lot of good standout spots. And then obviously Green Bay, Minnesota is going to get some ownership just based on Devontae Adams and Jamal Williams, right, with some of the injuries and stuff there. So for me, just like you said, I've made some mistakes in the past with weather and money and all that stuff. So I'm going to try and just play with what I like and try and avoid certain situations that might not be the best spots.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I share your same sentiment, Brett. Anytime I make decisions based on weather, I'm usually wrong. So who knows? So I try not to worry too much about it, but I do let the totals guide me. All right. So let's talk about running backs. Started off like we usually do. It's wide open this week, kind of. We're going to have some chalk. First we're going to have Kareem Hunt. It's going to be chalky just because of the price. We talked about it. I think we were all on board last week with him. And we kind of talked about like he just has been running bad from like a game script. He was hurt, and then games they just got blown out, and then the usage is elite. We thought last week would be like the extreme spot, and then freaking Baker Mayfield throws for 5 touchdowns, which is like complete anomaly, right? But like he still kind of like showed his floor with 19 DK points, 76 yards rushing. I mean, the usage was great. And, he's played 90% of the snaps, I think it was, or something, and 18 carries, but did get a passing touchdown. He did benefit from one of those passing touchdowns. But, I think the big game, the monster game is still coming. We haven't seen it yet, and this could very well be the week against the Bengals, especially with some weather there. So that he's someone we should talk. Then it's Derrick Henry, right? Like who just gets better and better as the season goes along in the cold. Everybody's going to want to play him because of what he did in that, in that last 10 minutes of the other week when he went absolutely bananas against Houston. So we're going to have to discuss him. Kamara again. Michael Thomas is out again. So he disappointed last week, but still showed a really solid floor. And then potentially Dalvin Cook's back, but I guess those are kind of the chalkiest plays, I think, at least at the moment. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm missing anyone, but what do you guys think about like that group that I mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking with the elite pricing guys like the Kamara and Henry, I mean, that's going to be a big decision point this week. For me, I think I'm just leaning towards Kamara right now, early on. Just matchups, I think, are pretty similar. We've seen Chicago just been giving it up on the versus running backs the whole season. So, and I mean, the Saints are just without so many playmakers. Like now they're without Callaway, who kind of stepped up in a wide receiver role. But it just feels like Kamara he's consistently getting over 20% target share. So on a site like DraftKings where it's full point per reception, it's tough for me not to go with Kamara over Henry in the spot. And I do feel like Henry will be more popular. So you're going to get a little bit of an ownership decrease on that. But yeah, everything is right there for Kareem Hunt to have a monster. This matchup versus the Raiders. Raiders have been one of the worst versus the run. Just seems like it sets up really well. Might be Kareem Hunt's last week to be kind of showcased here. I'm going to be probably right there on those two guys, probably a little bit lower owned on Derrick Henry. Tambo, how do you see kind of like the top tier guys?
Yeah, I'm in on Hunt. I think Kirkwood said it best. I don't even think last week was what we were, that wasn't it. That was just a great game. It's wait and see for the big one here, because the fact of the matter is he played, I think he missed like 5 snaps the whole week. So they're using him plenty. They don't mind. The spot is good. I like that one. Like I said, I already talked about Carr and Waller. The other side, you can really mix this game up different ways, but I like that call. And then for me, I'm with you, Brett. It's going to be Kamara over Henry. If you look at it, just going back, I'm not even against the week that Henry went off and everyone's like, oh, you can't play him because he doesn't catch passes. Like, we were all talking about him. It was a pretty obvious spot. It was a leverage spot. There was literally a million reasons to use him that week that I don't understand all the stuff out there. But this week, it's not the same in my opinion. And if you go back and look too, just at their numbers, that week was 43 DK points. Kamara already has one that's 47. Kamara's floor is like 19 DK points and his ceiling is higher. Henry, you mix in some 15, 14, 8-pointers. I know the spot looks good, but I also think it's very popular with just the whole entire stack that's going to go with it. We know it's going to be Burrow. We know it's going to be Gio. Pick a pass catcher and Henry. Congrats. That's what you're starting with. If it works for you, good. If the chalk smashes again, I'm dead, but that's just not the route that I'm going with my stuff this week. So I'm definitely on Kamara over Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I don't know what to do. I'm not sure yet. You know what? I'm kind of gonna lean with the Tannehill in the passing game on this side of the game, and just both sides passing back and forth is probably the way I'm gonna play it. So I'll probably have an underweight stance on Henry by the time. But like, I'm not excited about Kamara against the Bears either, to be honest with you, from a matchup standpoint. Some guys one guy that we should talk about just because of price that's probably going to be extremely popular is going to be Josh Jacobs, 6,200. Now he's been kind of the victim of matchups, not certainly at least last week, in week 7 when he played Tampa and basically did nothing. But what do you think his ownership's going to shake out to this week? Do you think he's going to be extremely popular, or do you think people are going to keep talking about this passing game from the Oakland side because Carr's doing much better?
Yeah, I think at RG we got him too high right now at 19.9. You're going to see, I think, that go down. We don't even have – where is Williams? Okay, there's Jamal Williams. We have Jamal Williams at 4.8. I expect Jamal Williams to be like 15 to 20% owned. Probably be in the top 3 for running back ownership. And then Jacobs, I think, will go down to closer to maybe 10%. I'm more concerned about his usage and how much Jalen Richard and Devontae Booker have been used lately. Not only in the rush game, but in the passing game, right? We saw Jacobs actually be used quite a bit in the first few weeks, just with getting quite a few targets. But now it's just like Richard's like almost right there with targets in weeks 4 and 5. And then Devontae Booker's now sliced off a piece. So it's just like he's got to run good. And then also just giving up more snap share and target share is more my concern. So probably staying away from that as of right now. But, I can see myself talking myself into it. Like if I think tomorrow on Sunday, everybody should be like putting ESPN on their TVs just for the live in-depth like interviews like at stadiums and actually looking at the weather. Because like if we start seeing like there's just this massive crazy weather, I don't know, for me to actually see it in the stadium, like that could change it a little bit more. But for right now, I think I'm out on Josh Jacobs.
Even weather aside, I think it could end up being something. Like, it's just crazy how this ownership goes. Like at the start of the week, I don't think Carr's going to have very much. All of a sudden, he's sitting like in second place after Burrow. It's not even really like a way to go that's different. And if you think about it, we've seen this a bunch of times. The weather is interesting because the aspect of realistically the only time I'd want to use 2 running backs against each other in something like a large field tournament to try and get 2 ceilings out of it would be in a weather game where they're just going to hand off, both go. The price is right. But a couple things. One, $100 more than Jamal Williams, who we know is going to get extremely popular after today and the updates hit because Aaron Jones is out. 2, the more I look at it and keep going through it, already Waller is extremely popular at tight end and Carr is extremely popular at quarterback. I mean, I guess there's 9 out of 10 lineups that don't have Carr sitting around 10% ownership, but that's always the way it is at quarterback. It's popular for quarterback positions. So I actually don't hate it with Jacobs. It's not something I'm in love with, but I think there is a couple reasons that you could go that route and use someone like him at 6,200, especially like you said there, Brett, if the weather shows up pretty crazy. I wouldn't even hate putting the two of them in the same game together because I still think they're going to score points and be able to get by.
Yeah, I wouldn't be so worried about the usage with Richard and Booker. I mean, the way I look at that is he's been a victim of game scripts and opponents. And now the thing I would be worried most about is just Cleveland's pretty good against the run. You know, they're pretty good. It's not like a matchup we have to run away from like you would like last week with Tampa, but Cleveland definitely has some good run stuffers. But I mean, that's an interesting way to play the game, you know, because you know, like you said, Tampa, that Waller is going to be so popular and Carr is, you know, getting a lot of talk and hype now. So, you know, I think I'll wait and see how things change over this weekend to make a decision on there. But I like Jacobs here. I'm not crazy. Like I don't love anyone this week, to be honest with you. Like,
are you guys there with Jamal Williams as like chalk should be like top 3-ish running back by the end of the week? I think Jamino hasn't gotten it to.
No one's got to it yet. There's no way. He has to be up there. Like one thing about Williams, we didn't even talk about him, but I guess that we should now, is, you know, everything last week was incredible. Like as far as usage goes, opportunities, I read somewhere it was the most opportunities he's received since week 17 when the Packers had it clinched in his rookie year that they ran him out there. So, you know, he got the most opportunities. He had the most usage. He did stuff with it, right? He went out and had a pretty good game overall. And now they get to go back in here against Minnesota where they can pass it down to him, check it down, whatever you want to call it, and then run him out. You know, they're projected for 28, 29 points in this spot. So I really do still like him. I just think it's like you said, he's definitely going to get up there by the end of the week. The one thing I wonder, you guys, you know, maybe Kirkwood, you want to comment on this, is the 6,100 a sticker shock or is it doesn't matter? Because in most cases people say, well, yeah, but he's not 4,500 like last week. He's 6,100, but he still is probably too cheap, even at 6,100, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, he's too cheap. The Gio Bernard would be a sticker shock to me, just based upon matchup and his role. I love the situation a lot more for Jamal Williams. You know, another bad weather game too. But again, outside of Devontae Adams, this offense is looking for other like studs to kind of lean on. And how good Jamal Williams is at catching the ball out of the backfield has been a awesome surprise this year for the Packers. So, I think he can do it all. And Minnesota's rush D, they've been selling their defense. They lost 2 guys, Ngakoue and Daniil Harris or Daniil something. They lost them for the season. I mean, they got rid of Ngakoue or whatever his name is. So this is a really bad defense now, and they're obviously already selling off for, to kind of basically lose games from here on out. So, yeah, I think Jamal Williams to me is in a smash spot. His usage was ridiculous, like you said last week. So, yeah, I like him quite a bit.
Yeah, so they had Williams on the field for 89% of the snaps. Now, Gio's usage shouldn't really concern you either, though, because he was up there for a monster workload, too, at 76%. Now, he didn't get the volume that Williams saw, but, like, he was definitely a bell cow. But they just utilized him more in the passing game, which is they played to his strengths. Now, there's sticker shock, sure, I think, with both of them, to answer your question. But, like, you know, they had Dillon and Williams on the field together, too, at times. I mean, if we're going to get the same kind of usage, 6,100 is not a big deal whatsoever. And how's Minnesota been against the run? I mean, Minnesota's ranked 20th in DVOA versus the run. Definitely is not a matchup that we should shy away from. So, I mean, I mean, yeah, 6,100 is fine for me. I like I said, but I'm just not like in love with anybody. I don't know, like maybe Jonathan Taylor. Maybe I start, which I've had my love all season, but maybe this is the week that he rips it open against Detroit. His snap share has been increasing each of the last 4 weeks. He did see a lot of extra passing. You know, it was nice to see him get four catches last week for 55 yards, which is just kind of a nice reminder that he can be utilized in this passing game. So he's someone, you know, behind that really good offensive line in a game that, you know, has a good total in the dome that I like. What do you guys think about him?
Yeah, I like him just because I think there's still question marks with him being able to catch the ball in the backfield. But Detroit's really been giving it up on the ground. I mean, and that's where I think you're going to see Jonathan Taylor. I mean, get most of his fantasy points is just strictly rushing the ball. So I like it.
Brett, 4 catches last week, 4 for 4 for 55 yards.
All right. I mean, there's something, but look at the weeks before. You know, it's just like you have a spike week there. But I'm concerned just with him, obviously catching the ball going forward. Helps to have Philip Rivers, you know, back there. But yeah, I don't know. Like I like the spot. One downside is he's going to be missing his center this week. And they'll have a rookie center coming back, so might be a little bit of a downtick, just, you know, run blocking wise. But outside of that, I think he's a perfect tournament play this week. In a dome, I mean, obviously you're not having to worry about weather. So, Tambo, what do you think about the play?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm definitely in on him. You know, Kirkwood talked to it a little bit, just a lot of as far as the stats go. Guy's getting, I mean, Gurley got 2 accidental touchdowns against them last week, or 1 was accidental, but you know what I mean? It's just a spot where I like his price. I don't love, like we've all said here, we don't love all these other guys. I think it's a pivot option off of Kareem Hunt. If you want to be different in that game, we talked about how we could be a little bit different inside of that game. So, you know, using Josh Jacobs, and you don't want to have Hunt in the same lineup, you could go to another guy that's $300 less in Jonathan Taylor. The 4 catches stood out to me. And even the center thing, it's a little bit enticing from a, you know, fantasy point perspective, because like you said, that center doesn't block as much, but could see some more Rivers checkdowns, and guess who's going to be there for him, right? If it's Naheem Hines, I'll be pissed, but I'm going to still roll out some Jonathan Taylor lineups and put him in there at 6,600. I think it's a good price.
Another guy here that interests me at least, Myles Gaskin. So basically, it's just, you know, ever since this Jordan Howard's been inactive, it's just been like monster usage, monster bell cow roll, right? Now they have Tua coming in, who's, you know, rookie QB in his first real start. You know, it's probably going to be a run heavy game plan when you expect, and this guy's just getting monster workload. And I think he's pretty damn good. So the matchup is tough, but like, it's tougher to pass on the Rams. You know, the Rams defense is good in general, right? Like they're a top-notch defense. I think we can all admit that. They've got a lot of good guys on the defensive side of the ball. But I think this game could kind of pop off in a, you know, sneaky-ish way. And, you know, there could be some of that, some option stuff going down with Gaskin and Tua. I mean, what are you guys' thoughts with him?
Yeah, my only concern obviously with Gaskin is just his workload, right? I mean, just a really small guy, but he's been so good with his workload, and it has constantly increased. So, I mean, the price is ridiculous at 5,200. And I agree with you that with Tua coming in, you would think like a lot of the offense would be somewhat basic in the beginning and centered maybe more around the run game, or at least getting Gaskin in space. So yeah, I think I'll have definitely my fair share of Gaskin.
Yeah, I'm in for the same reasons. I actually love him, to be honest, because a couple things. One, just the usage factor that you talked about. He's, you know, to me, he's more of the, I know, Brett, you were getting some shit last week about Giovanni Bernard being a bell cow, and Kirkwood called him that on here. But I would say Gaskin is definitely has been more of one. Plus he gets the catches. Plus he's still cheap. I also really like pairing him up with the Miami defense. And guess who they're playing? Jared Goff. Guess what Jared Goff sucks against? Well, a lot, mostly everything, but especially pressure. the Miami defense, 3, 5, 2, 4 sacks just in the last 4 weeks. They're just getting all kinds of pressure after these quarterbacks, some better than Goff, so not hard to do that. But I really do like pairing them up together and then just not even worrying about the LA side and just run it that way.
Yep. What else? Who else am I missing here? I mean, no one excites me. I don't.
We need to really talk, I think, about Dalvin Cook. I don't know. Like, I think this is like a perfect smash spot for Dalvin, coming out of a bye, and then you have, I don't know how the ownership's going to play down with, Derrick Henry and Kamara definitely going to be way higher owned there. But in Green Bay, Packers have been near the bottom in every type of running category. And if the Vikings are going to pull off this upset or, keep this game competitive, Dalvin's got to have a monster. And I like him in both, like running the ball and catching the ball out of the backfield here. So the best part about this is he's got a Q tag still going down on the sites. And everything that I've heard is like he's 100% good to go. They just kept him questionable for whatever reason. So I think this is a spot where you could get a good 2-to-1, maybe 2.5-to-1 type of ownership decrease on Cook with the same type of ceiling that you would see on Derrick Henry or Kamara. I don't know where you guys are with that, Tambo.
I like it in one way only, and I'll set it up this way when I'm doing my 150 max or whatever. I'll play him in lineups with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams and just run it that way, because you'll leverage off of all the Jamal Williams stuff. You'll use a guy that's not being used. If someone's spending up at running back, they're going to Kamara or Henry, as we talked about. You mentioned coming off the bye, the opportunity for this. The other thing too is this is a reminder of the Thursday games. The Thursday game was Carolina-Atlanta, second time out, right? Saw them very early in the season, gets to see them pretty quickly again. Same thing we're getting here, right? Green Bay lit up Minnesota week 1. We're only on week 8? It's pretty quick turnaround to come back around and see this stuff coming off a week off. I think this is a spot where you could utilize them, get extremely unique in tournaments, and run the Green Bay pass attack. And the second component to that would be that Aaron Rodgers is 7,600. We're not in quarterback yet, I know, but Russell Wilson 7,800. I think a lot of people are going to be there. We already talked about it, so I don't mind something like that, Brett, for tournaments. So you can get a pretty good lineup build still out of something like that.
So here's my thoughts. So in theory, I love Dalvin Cook this week. I love the fact that I love his price. He is like if I felt like completely confident in that he was healthy and good to go, which I should, right? Because he's not on the injury report.
He is questionable. He's still questionable, but
I thought I just read that he's not even on. He has no injury designation.
On RotoWorld, they kept the Q on their last update. So,
yeah, I'm reading right here. Vikings running back Dalvin Cook has no injury designation on the team's final Week 8 injury report. So if that's true, then I should take their word for it that he's healthy, right? The matchup is great. And Green Bay gets absolutely gashed to pass catching backs, right? Like they're terrible against running backs, but also like pass catchers just eat alive. And he did have kind of underperformed, but he had a big day in their first week when they played because he got in the end zone twice. But like, so if he's healthy, I love him. I'm just a little bit worried that because of it's a groin, just because I saw like the reaction, like in that game, I remember it. I was actually, I think I was happy he got injured because I was fading Dalvin Cook. But I didn't want him to be too badly injured.
And it wasn't.
Anyways, but like I worry that maybe like Madison eats into that role a little bit, but like if he doesn't, then this is like a smash. And so I should probably take that risk in tournaments and just go for it with Cook.
I mean, who would you guys rather bring it back in like some type of Packer stacks with the Vikings?
Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, it's Jefferson.
Yeah. I mean, Thielen's had obviously some monster games versus the Packers, but you expect.
I think it's so you've got it way different here, though. Like as far as what's more unique is definitely Dalvin Cook. Like especially if the Q tag lingers, like you said, all those factors. Just I think that's a better build only because it's a little bit more unique and because, like I said, no one's going to be thinking about Cook when they're spending up. They're either getting up to Kamara or Henry, or they're going down to all the value backs that we talked about.
Yeah. Any other running backs you guys want to play?
Just looking here on my end. Anything you got, Kirkwood?
I mean, any shots that you want to take on like the Chargers here with Justin Jackson, Josh Kelly? Does that interest you at all?
I don't want to just shrug it off because yes, it does kind of. But two things we didn't talk about here: double revenge games. Melvin Gordon with Philip Lindsay, I believe, is out or likely out, going back up against the Chargers, and we got only two less touches or two less carries, I should say, last week for Le'Veon Bell versus Edwards-Helaire in an absolute smash spot where they're like 20-point favorites against the Jets for Kansas City at 4,600 for Le'Veon Bell. That's extremely interesting as well.
Yeah. I mean, they're just gonna let him eat, right?
They have to. That's what I'm saying.
Because that game is going to be because the Jets are missing everybody again on offense for receivers.
Yeah, so those two are big for me.
Yeah, I'm on board with. I could get on board with a drunk Melvin Gordon for 5,600.
Let's go.
I do like that narrative. The price at 5,600 is kind of interesting. I think if Lindsay is out though, like it makes it a great play.
Man, I had some McKinnon shares last week, and then it comes out later. It comes out later that he was being rested. They said, I don't know what the hell to do, but just watching Jeff Wilson go absolutely bananas until he got hurt was just so tilting. So I knew somebody was going to do well against New England, and I thought McKinnon was the guy. I mean, is Tevin Coleman might be coming back this week?
Yeah, that still is unknown. I guess they gave him a lot of work and practice to see how he would handle the soreness afterwards. So we haven't gotten word yet if they're going to activate him off the IR.
But man, I think I'll pass on the Josh Kelly and Justin Jackson situation. Yeah. Denver's pretty good in the run, and I just think that it's going to Keenan. I think Keenan Allen's going to absolutely eat this week.
One three-headed backfield that should be down at two-headed is the Ravens. So Mark Ingram is doubtful, which leaves Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. The last time this happened, Dobbins and Edwards had a similar running share in the offense, but then Dobbins had 5 targets at 4,600. I mean, obviously you're going up against Pittsburgh, so this is not a play for a matchup, but I think the explosiveness that Dobbins brings, especially catching the ball out of the backfield, I think makes for an interesting play at 4,600.
It's still 3-headed. It went down from 4-headed because Lamar Jackson's running it again.
Sure.
So, and I think he's fine. I'm not touching that. Trust me, as a Ravens fan, you don't want to be messing with that. That's too much mess. I'd rather just take shots on, like you said, Jackson Kelly's, Le'Veon Bell, 4,600, Melvin Gordon, 56. There's just so many other ways that I'd rather take a shot. And they actually have some decent spots. Those are good spots to be in. And, I think I would rather take my shots there than risk that.
Yeah. Any boys like DeAndre Swift? This guy seems electric. He seems like almost like a Latavius Murray type guy when he gets in the open field. He's starting to get more touches in a game that's in a dome. We've already talked about Jonathan.
Wait a minute here. You just the electric guy is Latavius Murray? Is that what you said?
Oh, did I say Latavius? I'm sorry. Kamara. did I had that in the back of my head for this is I had that in the back of my head for a leverage play off of
it's this is the pinnacle. This is the guy that we're
I just got done reading that out of my notebook, by the way. So DeAndre Swift, we'll get this right, is explosive like Elvin Kamara in the open field. His touch share has been going up, especially with carries. He's always been kind of like the pass catching guy. In a dome on turf seems like a good spot for him to go off. Not the easiest matchup, kind of like a middle in the road matchup. Where are you guys on with DeAndre Swift?
I'm not. I wasn't planning on playing too much of them, but I do like that take. So I could see getting there a little bit. It's just not. It depends. He's going to get the catches, like you said. I think they're going to be down. I like Jonathan Taylor a lot more the other way, and then it gets it. Makes
Yeah.
it tough to happen. You can mix it around, but there's just so many guys, and that's just not one that hit my radar.
I actually had him in game stacks last week, and I think this week he will make my game stack again for the Lions Colts. So
yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Anything else?
Let's move it on over to QB,
Yeah.
unless you guys got like a secret.
No.
Oh,
secret. All right. QB, before we start getting into our stacks here. Ownership, yeah, it looks like Carr is going to get plenty of ownership. 5,500 is the reason why, because of his price tag. Jimmy Garoppolo is also cheap, 5,400. Joe Burrow, who I like, and I'll get to it. I might as well just do it now. I like Joe Burrow a lot, 6,200. Yes, he had a big game last week. Yes, he was chalk and had some, had a rushing vulture touchdown that he did from the one, which kind of made me upset because I had a lot of GL last week. But basically, coming off of a 34 fantasy point performance last week, that's at least over on Yahoo, 38 on DraftKings, 300 yards in 5 of his last 6 games. The other one was against the Ravens. So we could have expected a bad game there. Rushed for the TD, like I said, is an underdog and against the Titans, where they're probably going to have, this game does have a big total. They're probably going to be passing from behind all game. They're not going to be with Joe Mixon again. Giovanni Bernard's strength is in the passing game as opposed to run. It seems like they game planned it that last week. Burrow leads the league in passing attempts, ranked 3rd in passing yards. So the thing is he's run kind of bad, at least from like touchdown standpoint, right? Like, so he's a rookie and he's going to have some tough games, but he's starting to gel with this. He does have a good weapons, right? Like, so he's starting to gel with these guys. He did get some touchdown regression coming last week where he, got 3 TDs. But I think we can expect that to continue on here. So, and also when we get to the wide receiver, I love the matchup for Tyler Boyd in this one. I know, Brett, you were, just talking about how much Boyd you had last week, but I love Burrow. And then I also like Tannehill on the other side of the game, who's a little bit more expensive depending on the site though. And then we've got guys like Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes. I don't know I'm probably not going to play Patrick Mahomes at 8,100 against the Jets because I just don't think they're going to need to do much in this game. But I'm interested if you guys are interested. And then did I say Aaron Rodgers? I don't know.
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
All right. That's kind of the guys, at least that I'm thinking right now. I'm not going to be playing Phillip Rivers no matter what the blitz starts pumping out.
Yeah, tough to swallow that one. Yeah, I feel like if you're going to go down, Jimmy Garoppolo makes a lot of sense versus Seattle. I know they're somewhat handcuffed with no Deebo Samuel in this offense, but Seattle, they just can't cover anybody. So, yeah, I'm going to be really highly exposed for Jimmy G. And I think everything that you said with Joe Burrow, you kind of extensively kind of dove into that. I think they're going to give him even more carries inside the 5. A lot of those were planned rushing attempts. And I know we like to say, he vultured Gio Bernard, but, Gio is not Joe Mixon. So I think this is a spot where they're going to utilize Burrow's, rushing capability inside the 5. He's already got 5 carries inside the 5. I think it's a great spot to get another Burrow rushing touchdown for sure. So I'll be right there. If I pay up, I kind of am with you. I'm leaning towards Russell Wilson over Mahomes. Nobody's run worse, I think, than this KC offense the last few weeks with not only weather, but then special team / defense scoring a touchdown last week. So, and then I don't know. Like, I feel like I'm going to be pretty I'm going to just have a lot of ownership between like 4 or 5 guys, and I think I've kind of hit them. So, Tambo, you like where's your love live for quarterbacks here?
I don't know if either of you guys saw this today, but I still didn't see the updated practice report for Cincy, but it still worries me. Like I'm telling you, I love Joe Burrow as much as Kirkwood went off about him. That's all the things I'm thinking when the week starts. And I don't know. I just worry with 3 O-line guys banged up, and he's the chalk, and every lineup's setting up the way I talked about. I actually love Tannehill on the other side. I like that passing game. I'm going to use some Jonnu Smith, some A.J. Brown, some Corey Davis. I like all these guys. Since he's not going to stop anyone, and if people are going to play Henry and move that angle, I'm going to go the other side. I love the pass catchers. I like who you talked about. Tyler Boyd, love it. A.J. Green has been getting more targets and upside and all that stuff. You can really leverage off this game, the standard plays of Henry, Bernard. You can use Bernard if you want on the other side of that. If you think he's the best value running back, stack up Tannehill, Corey Davis, and A.J. Brown, and then get your spots elsewhere. So I like the Tannehill side. At the top, I like Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. I really like the, Jimmy Garoppolo call there, Brett. It's kind of the opposite side, right? If everyone likes Wilson, you can go Garoppolo, save a bunch of money. It's huge. I think it's $2,400 this week? Like that's a lot of money there. And maybe you don't get too aggressive, like, Brandon Ayuk or something like that. Just get one other guy in there, run it back with DK Metcalf, because he'll be lesser owned than Tyler Lockett. And I don't know anybody on the outside that's going to be able to stop him. I don't know even how he got stopped last game. It was pretty crazy, and he thought he had stuff, and he didn't. But Lockett had a huge game, so good for him. And then what about this, Kirkwood, the one guy I didn't hear you talk about him, but what about, isn't it finally Josh Allen week? We're back on him?
Yeah, I was thinking him. Lamar too, even though it's a tough matchup, like this is a week where like there's like no like crystal clear, like we got bad weather to deal with, we've got to force some upside here, and like those are guys like regardless of matchup that can give us like monster upside. But like, yeah, New England is done, right? Like so they've thrown in the towel. They're in tank mode now. Gilmore is sitting like with a mysterious injury now when he's been rumored to be on the trade block, and Cam was just pathetic. Edelman already.
They're wide receivers right now.
Edelman just got surgery. Like, and Cam is like a powder, right? Like he's like, I can't see him like willing this team on with a bunch of scrubs. He's like, who knows? But like, wouldn't that be something if Cam had a good game? But I doubt it. But yeah, so Josh Allen, should be able to have a good game here. Yeah, I can get on board there.
One more thing on that too, and why I actually love I like the play, but I don't want to say love, but I do like to play quite a bit for tournaments, is because John Brown coming back, and not just because of that stack, but when has Josh Allen struggled this year? Basically 2 games. Who wasn't in those games? John Brown. When did he crush? When John Brown was there to mix around, and then you got Diggs and all that going for you. So I actually like him.
John
at 7K.
Brown burned Gilmore too. Like and Gilmore is not going to be playing.
And by the way, I think people are quick to say Josh Allen had a bad game. Yeah, they had like 8 field goal attempts, so they were terrible when they got close to the red zone. But he still had 70% efficiency. This is a team that's been terrible running the ball. That's the big thing. And then, he still had 11 carries for 61 yards. So let's not say,
his bad game was 20 points, which is, already almost three times the $7,000 salary here. And I think he's going to go out, have a much better game.
Yeah.
So,
the team just to get in the zone, so.
Yeah, I'm with you. Anybody else? Because I don't mind the Lamar Jackson take. It's one, I'm normally not on him, but I guess wasn't even thinking about him coming in too much. But the idea of the first of a division game, right? Kind of the opposite of what I talked about earlier. So, they haven't played this year yet. I think it's one of those ones that could actually get a little back and forth. But Kirkwood, this can even segue into wide receiver. Who are you putting? If you're running like Lamar Hollywood, I like that stack. Do you like anybody on the Pittsburgh side when it comes to wide receiver? Or we didn't talk about Connor at running back, but anything you like on the other side with Pittsburgh?
I don't know. You just pick one of those 3 guys, right?
Just rotate him, yeah. I didn't know if any stood out.
I have no idea, because I'm not like I haven't really dug in, because I'm not like looking to pick on.
It would be the toughest way to correlate a lineup is by going Lamar Jackson. There's no doubt about it. It'd be tough.
You could play naked Lamar this week.
Claypool's at 5,200. Deontay is good to go. So I don't, obviously he's got big play capabilities.
Juju bounced back last week, 14 targets. Like,
yeah.
All right, let's. Who knows? Figure it out. Somebody tell us how to do it. All right, wide receiver. Let's talk about our air yards. Favorite air yard plays. Funny because I just had a conversation with a friend, one of my friends, Peter TTO, the Takeover DFS on. I think it's the Takeover on Twitter. It's funny. He's just like ripping on air yards. He's like, you know what air yards tells us? It tells you who sucks, not who's like good. He's like, it tells you who can't catch. It tells you who ran a bunch of routes, ran a bunch of yards on the field. And it's kind of true.
Yeah.
So
weighted opportunity is probably a little bit better, right? Getting the target share with your air yards.
Yeah. It's pretty funny. I mean, anyway, so wide receiver, some of our favorite plays, or the chalky plays, at least to start here. Davante Adams, he's priced extremely high, but put up 47 fantasy points last week. Tyler Lockett will be popular again. Tyler Lockett has the matchup again that we can talk about. And then Keenan Allen. I mean, all right, so I'm going to start off with the chalk plays because I like these chalky guys. So basically, I played Lockett last week. I loved him. I do worry about his ownership, but he's like still an extremely strong play again. So basically we already said this, that Seattle's offense it continues to play pass heavy. Their entire backfield is in shambles. They're going to have basically, DJ Dallas just running the show. Do you really think they're going to trust him to run all game? So it's going to most likely be another pass heavy approach against the 49ers D that's been decimated by injuries this season that we know, but they've been gashed in the slot. So, you get the small concentrated target tree. So yeah, Metcalf could have a big game too, but like the matchup still lines up with Lockett. And Lockett's numbers are just fantastic this season. Like he's like 8th in receiving yards, 1st in touchdowns amongst all receivers. Yes, that's after a monster game. But there's a lot of variance there because he has had some bust games, but like he's still a really solid play again this week in a game where we're like searching for passing offense. I mean, in a week we're searching for passing offense. Then Keenan Allen, right? Like, so basically looking at Keenan Allen's target share with Justin Herbert, it's ridiculous. And then you just, in general, his target share, he comes in with a 30.93% target share, which basically just puts him right next to Davante Adams and DeAndre Hopkins. But like, he's not priced like Davante Adams or DeAndre Hopkins would be. He's getting the opportunity. Herbert's been, force feeding him the ball. He had a monster game last week, but like ran really bad with no touchdowns, right? Like he went for he had 13 targets, 10 receptions, 125 yards, 25 fantasy points, but didn't find the end zone. Like you feed him a couple of touchdowns, like this dude could go absolutely bananas. Denver, it's not a terrible matchup there. They've given up some production in the slot too, and they're so tough to run on that it just seems like it's going to be like the feeding Keenan Allen show. And then my last favorite is Tyler Boyd. Basically, I've already talked about my love for Burrow, so I want to correlate him, obviously. And Burrow leads the league in passing attempts. They're probably going to be behind. Now, the good thing is that Tennessee doesn't bring a lot of, or hasn't been able to get a lot of pressure on people. So yes, there's the offensive line problems that Tambo's been speaking of, but like at least it's good that he's not facing like one of these elite pass rusher defense. So he should, hopefully these guys can hold him up and give him some time, but like the matchup for Boyd is where it's at. Boyd is a number one receiver. Yes, all these guys get a ton of targets, but he still leads the Bengals in targets. I mean, he's had 61 targets, 48 receptions, 517 yards. I expect touchdown regression coming for Burrow, which we started to see last week. And so then, he's as good a bet as any. The Titans are without slot corner Christian Fulton this week. So Boyd now draws the second best matchup advantage of the week per Pro Football Focus against Chris Jackson, who's been absolutely gashed for a 76% catch rate. Just has given up 2 touchdowns in limited work. So Boyd is just like popping for me. So those are my 3 guys, all going to be chalky, but somewhat chalky, but I love all 3 of them.
Yeah, I don't think Boyd's going to be chalky at all, Chris. I think at his price point at 6,600, I think all 3 Cincy guys, there's not going to be one that really stands out ownership wise. I think T Higgins for 1K less makes total sense, and then AJ Green's led the team the last 2 weeks in both target share and in air yards. So, I mean, and
he'll get the most ownership
at 4,500.
Yeah, his price.
But I think
Boyd will get some ownership.
I think T Higgins, man, he might have the highest ceiling. I mean, I would assume he's got the highest ceiling over AJ Green. But yeah, I like T quite a bit. Tough for me to decipher between all 3 Cincinnati guys, but right there with you on the love for Tyler Lockett in the slot. He gets a great matchup again. Keenan Allen probably not as high this week. I don't know. It just feels like he's got a little bit tougher of a cornerback matchup, and I think I just want to have more shares of Tyreek Hill. I don't know. I just feel like at 6,700, the crazy upside for Tyreek versus the Jets here, I think is where I want to be. So I think with just like the upper end of the wide receivers, that's kind of where my focus is. Tambo, where are you at top tier wide receivers?
Devontae Adams, I think one of the things Kirkwood talked about that I'm, just stuck on, and I'm kind of having a hard time with it, is that we've done this for a long enough time to know it. It seems like the chalk wide receivers, especially high end, typically don't go off. And this we've got all these great chalkier high end, and then like even Keenan Allen, he's not higher end price tag, but how do you not play him? Like you said, it's Devontae Adams and Hopkins usage actually doing stuff with it. A guy like Herbert looks great. It just makes no sense at all. So some of these prices, we're just gonna have to find different ways, find other ways to get different within your lineup. But for me, the only one that stands out a little bit different, you mentioned Lockett. I get it. I like that Metcalf is still $400 more. I do like that with Lockett. You got to put him in your mix. It's boom or bust. When he goes off, it's 40 or 56 points as we've seen this year. But Metcalf did it for every game but that one. So, like I said, I just don't think there's anybody on this 49ers team that's stopping these guys. You can run it with Wilson, Metcalf, Lockett. That's the entire target tree pretty much there. Like you said, I don't think if it ends up being DJ Dallas, it's going to be that way. So, I'm good with that. I like that up at the top. A.J. Brown, I mentioned. I'm going to stick with that. I do like going with that passing game on the opposite side versus using the Burrow side. As I mentioned with Tannehill, can mix in Brown. You can use Jonnu Smith. You can use Corey Davis. There's a bunch of guys on that team you could use. It's not pretty or exciting, but it's a definite way to go. And then I talked about Diggs and John Brown. Those are sort of the other guys, if you're going down, that I'm with, that I'll use on that side. And then we mentioned it earlier, Justin Jefferson, for coming back from those Rodgers stacks. So that's sort of where I'm at from, 5.5K and above.
One thing that I'd point out is A.J. Brown looks like he's going to be shadowed by William Jackson. Now, the Cincinnati defensive backfield has actually been pretty bad overall, but William Jackson has been pretty elite on this season. And reports are that he will potentially shadow here against A.J. Brown. So that could lead more to a funnel towards Corey Davis or Jonnu Smith. So that's kind of just something that I've written down just based upon my just wide receivers cornerback matchup.
Coming back from his concussion, I think.
I don't know about you guys. I feel like I'm almost done with cornerback matchups. I'm not saying they
to a
don't
certain
matter,
degree,
but just so many. Like every week, some of these.
I'm not avoiding.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not avoiding that one.
Tambo, like
AJ
I
Brown's
only care.
a freak. AJ Brown's a freak.
Yeah, I only care like the extremes, right? So like when I see if you pull up like Cincinnati defensive backfield, like where they give up points, wherever this William Jackson is, like he shuts it down, right? And then the other side gives up a lot of points. So in general, Cincinnati gives up a lot of points. It's like one of those things where you can see where the ball is going, and it seems like offenses have been avoiding William Jackson in coverage. So it's kind of just like one of those parts where, through research, you'll see like different things that pop up. That seems very apparent. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. And then it's also too the competition they're up against. Sometimes it's talent versus opportunity. Like there's a different factor. And a guy like AJ Brown, I think, is just a beast, can take out anybody at any time. It really doesn't matter to me. So I'll still use him, but I like it. I'm just saying there's ways to be different there anyway, but it's just an example. We've had all these conversations across the industry about the Jair Alexanders, all these different matchups and stuff that you're seeing. I just think everybody's getting burned. I don't know if it's the preseason factor or what, but there's just so many times where you're like, well, I avoided that because of this. That's just not the way to go about it, I don't think, this year. Just play whoever, blender, man. Play whoever you want.
Definitely focus more on like correlations than that.
Yeah.
Speaking of, you alluded to, so with Adam Thielen, seeing Jair Alexander, Justin Jefferson. I mean, basically, I love Justin Jefferson anyway. I think he's amazing, but he's the deep guy. They're going to, Cousins will air it out, especially trailing. So, like, if I'm not playing Dalvin Cook, like, Justin Jefferson is the guy I want personally. You with me, Tambo?
Oh, yeah, big time on that one. I think there's been some stuff I saw about sort of the setup and the what was it? I think it's in, I forget where I saw this, but better in zone coverage basically is what I saw for Justin Jefferson, and that's what we're going to be up against here. So there was that. That's sort of my guy to come back on the other side, as I mentioned, of those Green Bay stacks. If you want to, you can do Rodgers, Williams, and Devontae and come back with Jefferson. I like the Cook call that Brett brought up earlier, but you can do that. You can game stat. What's really whatever you want to do in that game. I don't mind because I kind of like it. I do worry a little bit because they're seeing each other for the second time, but I don't hate it. What about these cheap plays though down here? Are you going back to, AJ Green at 4,500 with the air yards comment earlier? Then there's, some of the guys in these spots. If Allen Robinson's out, we got Darnell Mooney, 3,500. Kendrick Bourne is 3,500 in that matchup, San Francisco, Seattle. And then Denzel Mims. I think everyone wanted last week to be a bit of a coming out party. It wasn't bad. He played a ton of snaps, 7 targets. And now with I can't remember if Crowder's doubtful or not. I think he's doubtful and I'm just calling him out. But either way, there's a bunch of these cheap guys down there. So what are we doing with those guys?
Yeah, I could get behind Mims. He's talented and there's nobody there. So and there's going to have to be some kind of production. I don't expect much from the Jets, but he'll be the guy. So I can get behind that. AJ Green, maybe. The volume is there for sure. Right. And he's cheap. So, I've already planted my flag with Boyd. So that's the guy. And I think, Higgins would be my number 2. So he would be the third option for me there in this game. So I'll probably be pretty underweight on him. Who else? Cheap guys. I know there's some kicking around that I
think out of that group, Mims, Tambo would be the most talented out of the group, right? So ceiling wise, he could be the one to go off the most. Another under 4K guy that I like, and this is why I loved Tyler Boyd so much last week, is Hunter Renfrow in the slot versus Cleveland. Cleveland has been the worst covering the slot all year. And, Tyler Boyd not only had 11 catches, but then he had 2 pass interferences called, one in the end zone. Could have had just a monster. I think Renfrow at 3,800 makes a ton of sense. You'll get him for dirt cheap ownership. So in those stacks, that looks good for me.
I just don't play Renfrow when I could have Ruggs.
I'll play Ruggs over Renfrow here with you on that, Kirkwood. I think
I want the 80-yard bomb. Call me.
Yeah, we're dealing with wind there, right? So yeah, and they just haven't he is a guy that has a huge route tree. that he showed in college. They just have been only using him extensively as just a deep guy. They haven't done any short passes with him, which just sucks.
I don't know. Maybe and then other guys that people are talking about are like Higgins and T.Y. Hilton for cheap. You guys have a T.Y. Hilton take? I can't even make one anymore. I'm sick to my stomach with this guy.
I mean, he's going to get ownership, right, in this spot, being the dome. I think I hate him more just because of the Phillip Rivers, right? Just it's tough, but I think I'll have some shares for sure. Tambo, what about you?
I forgot he still played football, to be honest, but it's just so hard to get behind this guy, man. It's so hard. But I like what you just said. You think about that. There's just so many spots to go this week. And like I say, 4,900 for Hilton. We kind of saw it when I guess it was 3,900 for AJ Green, but it took him to drop to that rock bottom price. Juju last week. Like, of course, it's got to be T.Y. Hilton week now, right? So why not get some lineups in there? I'm already talking about how much I like Jonathan Taylor. I'm sure I'll just get burned by T.Y. Hilton scoring 3 touchdowns. So why not get him in the pool, right? There's plenty of room for everybody this week. So I'll throw him in there at 4,900. I think it's interesting.
All right, boys, I've been making a few KC stacks. Who's your favorite Jet to bring it back between Mims and Berrios?
Mims.
Yeah. It
It
feels
wasn't
like
even
the
a bad
slot-
week, and it feels like flop leg is coming for like a big week for him versus people saw him last week, but it only went up $200, and now it's that spot where you just know he bounces back. Plus, it'll be they're both cheap, but just put him in and fit all the rest around it. It looks pretty good. I actually was toying with that as we were talking here too, just thinking about the more and more we leave Mahomes off. How many times do we see where it's like Mahomes scored more in the first half than all these quarterbacks in he's like normally afternoon game, right? How he's scored more in the first half than all the morning quarterbacks did in the whole game. And then what if the other thing is how did the Jets have almost a 15-point total? I know, they're looking to entice some action there on that under because it seems obvious, but how are they going to score? I just have no idea.
You want to see something crazy, though, just look at the Jets, how much they've utilized the slot this year between Crowder and then when Crowder's been out, Braxton Berrios has been getting just a ton of work too. So I don't know if it's just all the like routes or all the plays that they call are like mainly for the slot wide receiver or what, but just getting tons and tons of work to the slot for the Jets.
We got to mention Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah.
Going to be the number one receiver against Seattle. I mean, Seattle is just ridiculous. So they're just give up the most passing attempts, ton of completions, ton of yards. Like they're like top 2 in every metric out there. Giving up 57 completions of 15 plus yards. Like Ayuk and Kittle are like, I mean, even Bourne you could potentially play because he's got a good matchup at least.
They're without Shaquille Griffin this week too in the Seattle defensive backfield.
But man, you have to be interested. At least I am. All right. Jarvis Landry at all?
I was going to ask, you mentioned a little bit about Higgins. I was going to ask you, like, what do you do there? Because you got Higgins, Landry, and Peoples-Jones.
You guys remember 2 years ago with Higgins, right? I mean, he kind of came up with Baker, and so like when Baker finally took the job his rookie season, that's kind of when I don't know if it was injury based, but Rashard Higgins got a lot of play in the second half of that season, and he went off. And then basically once Odell came over in trade, we didn't hear Rashard Higgins at all. So we saw how much he got utilized last game after the OBJ injury. Got 6 targets, 6 catches for 110 yards. I mean, he's still too dirt cheap, I think, for just how well him and Baker have hooked up in the past.
Yeah, don't hate it.
All right, and then I mean, are we on board with Golladay?
Yeah, I mean, that's a spot where I will put down like a wide receiver wins the matchup, right? Xavier Rhodes has looked really good, even though 2 years ago looked like crap. I mean, I want a lot of Golladay, I think, in those game stacks.
Yeah, unless you give me like a strong take here, kind of like James Robinson last week. It wasn't someone, I guess, like you said, because the dome game factor, you'll be in some of the game stacks and whatnot, but not a guy that I was really looking at heavily outside of that. I like Boyd right there. I like Brett's call on Tyreek Hill if you want to run up some of these Mahomes stacks. And then, below it, we've got Justin Jefferson, who we talked about, Keenan Allen go down. There's a lot of guys in this range. So wasn't someone that was standing out heavily to me.
All right. Have we listed enough?
One guy that I'll throw out there is Jerry Jeudy in the slot. I know the Chargers have been dealing with some injuries. I think Casey Hayward is out. Don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure he was out. Or, gosh, I don't know. Maybe it wasn't Casey Hayward. So their slot corner was out. So kind of just like had that circled as a cheap play at 4,800.
I can dig it. All right, let's move on over to tight end. First off, so we've got some high end options, some good high end options, right? Like starting at the top is George Kittle, most expensive, but you're getting the number one wide receiver with out Deebo Samuel against this just horrendous pass defense. Seattle's 30th ranked DVOA passing defense. Guy has 40 targets in 4 games that he's played, 10 targets a game averaging. And they've given up a ton of production to tight ends, and they haven't even really played anyone that good. So Kittle, it just seems like such a great high-end play. Hopefully that people overlook it. Now the cheaper option is Darren Waller. Again, you're getting wide receiver 1. He leads all tight ends in targets and 56 targets, 40 receptions. Both are first in the league. The Browns have always been someone we attack tight ends with, and they've allowed the 5th most catches to opposing tight ends this season, and they've only really one decent tight end was Mark Andrews that they faced. I think they gave up 2 touchdowns to him. So those are the 2 kind of top end guys. I mean, you can always play Kelsey, especially after a week when he was chalk because of shout out to establish the run, Adam Levitan and Evan Silva and Wiggins, who put the entire DFS community on Travis Kelsey last week in cash. Did you guys see that?
I didn't.
Yeah. So who got a 6 points last week, but
that offense ran so bad though.
This is a good week to go back to him after that performance. No one's going to want to play him at all. I mean, it's a tough game. You do worry about the Jets putting up any sort of points offensive. So you would think that they just run the ball and also let Le'Veon stick it to him. But if not, Kelsey should always be in play, especially if he's low owned. Mark Andrews you could play again, but like TJ Hawkinson seems like a decent play to me, but I'm really keen in on just Kittle or Waller, to be honest with you. Or you guys, if you guys can sell me on some of the cheaper guys, but Jared Cook should be back in play again, without Michael Thomas.
Yeah, I am right there with you with a Kittle. I just think this is a spot where San Fran's going to have to focus a lot of their offense around Kittle. Still don't know exactly who's going to be healthy as running backs, so they may not be able to lean on the run as much. And then obviously just the opponent-wise, you want to attack Seattle through the air regardless. So love Kittle if I'm paying up. I think I have a lot more love, though, for Jonnu Smith. Again, this is a spot where I think A.J. Brown's matchup is really tough. And when they pass the ball, they want to throw the ball to Brown or Jonnu quite a bit. I'm giving a lot of credit to William Jackson in this defensive backfield. So Jonnu Smith at 4,100, I think, is a great play. Cincinnati versus tight ends has been bad on the year. So, yeah, kind of like that, especially in a game where we're thinking Wynn could be at a disadvantage. Obviously, Waller in another game where Wynn's going to be a factor. Think you'd kind of keep it a little bit closer or shorter passes, which would be more slot style routes. So, yeah, I think I'm leaning towards going down to Jonnu over Waller at this point in time. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with the top three. Tambo, where are you at?
I like what we all like Waller, whatever. Like say you can go off him and move on to other guys. I don't want to get crazy with him because of that, but I just think it's too cheap for the matchup, the upside, like you said, even if whether it's short passes, his yards after catch, just everything he can do. I'm kind of leaning Kelsey over Kittle though at the top, just for a couple of reasons. One, he's sort of in that middle tier, right in between the two of them. You know, the spot now. I guess on this podcast, I've just been coming more around on the fact that, you know, no one's really going to touch Kansas City, but they're going to put up all these points. And like I said, it can be halftime and they can still do quite a bit of damage. And then I just get this feeling that like the Jets are going to somehow score 14 points, like it says, or you know, something even crazier, maybe 20. And we end up getting this back and forth. And if you get 3 quarters plus, like, why wouldn't you? You got to think you will. It's 3 quarters of Mahomes.
Can I take the under
On
14 points?
The Jets.
Well, you can. It's out there everywhere. 14.75 is the line. So go ahead. You can. I'm saying
You don't have to go to Tampa Sportsbook for that.
yeah, you don't need my sports book for that.
I don't have to go to
All
New
the-
Hampshire. I don't have to go to New Hampshire. I went to New Hampshire this week for a UFC bet, and the match
Yes.
got canceled. I already put it
my
in,
God.
and he's already out. They already they replaced him.
So many ways with canceled, driving away to make bets and do things that we could go with that, but we'll leave it, right? That's an interesting topic these days. But yeah, you can drive to any sportsbook you like, Kirkwood, and get that. I just got a feeling if we get 3+ quarters of Mahomes against the Jets, I got a feeling it could go that way. And if we know if we get 3+ quarters from Mahomes against the Jets, it's going to be a smash spot. So I like Kelsey, Waller. I'm with you on Jonnu a little bit there, not because of the matchup for A.J. Brown. I'll use them in the same lineup together and use Tannehill with it, Bengal on the other side there. Brett, I don't hate that. But I guess some conversation needs to be had around these cheap guys. Right? What about Harrison Bryant? You going back to that after 20 points? Njoku got some work too. I mean, that's a spot you could go down to. Irv Smith against Green Bay is 3,000. And then what's Higbee's situation? Because Gerald Everett is pretty cheap too against Miami.
Yeah, so Higbee is questionable still. Another injury to keep an eye on is Indianapolis, where you have Alec Cox questionable. So Trey Burton at 3,500 definitely comes into play there. But yeah, Harrison Bryant, like I know a lot of people are all about him, like kicking themselves after what happened, but he ran 14 routes and Njoku ran 12 routes. I mean, they were seeing like
and they
40%.
both got there.
Yeah, well, they were seeing 40%, and they scored a bunch of touchdowns, right? So again, they were out there for high leverage spots, but what if they don't? What if they're not out there in high leverage situations? You know
What we do? We fade it, boys. We planted our flag with Kareem the Dream Hunt already.
I do not understand that pricing though. Why have Njoku at 3,800 and Brian at 32 when it's very obvious Brian started that game and played over Njoku? So it's kind of weird.
I got the play.
All right, here we go. This is what we wait for. These are actually
We
always
got-
the best plays.
I got the play. The revenge narrative is in full effect. On a week when people are going to look at Cole Kmet, who saw like a bunch of air yards and some big yards last week, but like Dusty Jimmy Graham against the Saints. Like, first of all, like Jimmy Graham has seen a ton of usage this week. It's like a ton of red zone usage, and basically the Saints are just, that's where you attack them, is with the tight end. So, man, I don't know. He's definitely dusty for sure, but like, give me Jimmy Graham for a big game this week. Come on,
I mean,
what do we do, boys?
New Orleans
do
has to throw the ball to somebody, right? I mean, Callaway got all these targets last week. He's out. Jared Cook at 4,400. I mean, or are you going to go back to the wide receivers in Traquan Smith, Deontay Harris?
No, I like Jared Cook, but give me some Jimmy Graham.
Yeah. I mean, the ball's got to be going to somewhere in New Orleans, though. We know how much they throw. It's just like, think that's a big spot that we haven't talked about. I don't think.
I mean, I played Cook everywhere last week. I'll go right back, of course.
Yeah.
Drew Brees is a nice little pivot right there. $100 more than your boy Burrow. Get him stacked up. Bring it back the other way with his boy Jimmy Graham. It's a little bit of a battle back and forth. Let's go.
Yeah, I can't go Drew Brees without Michael Thomas. When Michael Thomas comes back in this offense, possibly. But.
His name's Alvin. He's out there. Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
Just run it out there, man. That's the stack. If Kirkwood gives that one at the end, you know that's the stack now. I just don't know how deep you want to go with it.
Should we do our stacks, boys, and get out of here?
Hold on, I'm looking up one thing.
Oh, thinking of a deep tight end play here or what?
No.
I think you already gave us that. Yeah.
The deep so it's there. It's there. The Saints are giving up second most fantasy points per game to tight ends. Jimmy Graham is the play. Planting my flag. That's it.
Irv Smith's also been a guy that's cheap, that's gotten 5 targets the last 2 weeks in this offense. So if you're kind of worried about Jair Alexander in the defensive backfield, Irv Smith's a good pivot.
Yeah, I like that.
Moali Cox still down?
He's questionable.
Trey Burton again?
Yep.
All right.
Definitely.
Robert Tonyan's healthy again. All right.
Since Devontae's been back in this offense, man, there's been no wide receiver 2 or anybody getting targets. So.
Yeah, but that could change.
Good.
Just gotta have some. We could even do Drew Sample if we had to. You gotta have some low end guys. All right. Let's take it home with our favorite stacks. I'm going to lead the way and say that, I don't care if it's chalky or not, Joe Burrow, but like maybe you guys sold me that Tyler Boyd isn't going to be too chalky. So
he isn't.
Burrow to Tyler Boyd. I still think he'll get more ownership by the time Sunday comes, but we'll see what happens. But that's the way to play it. You bring it back with Hunt or Landry if you want to get off of the Hunt chalk. But that's my favorite stack. Then my other one would be, I don't know. I actually think Cooper Kupp is going to have a big week this week. So I think a really low-owned Goff with Cooper Kupp makes some sense in this one. And then you bring it back with it's going to be tough. You got to bring it back. You got to go running back in this one. You're going to have to go Gaskin, I think, is the way. But those are kind of 2 non-chalky-ish stacks.
Tambo, you want to do the Chiefs Jet stack, or where are you thinking with yours?
I gotta still start with Russell Wilson. I just like it better. Like I said, I like it better with Metcalf though. That's where I'm going with it. Just so everybody knows it's with Metcalf that I like that one. But yeah, you can take the Chiefs. I like that stack as well. The more I've come around on it here, so go ahead. Tell me what you like.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do just the Mahomes to Tyreek, and then I mean, kind of like flipping back and forth if I want to get Le'Veon exposure in that same stack. I've been looking at different ways. Demarcus Robinson's not bad. Nicole might see more routes run in this spot just because if it is a blowout. So I think McCole Hardman's ceiling's there. So I'd roll with McCole. And then on the Jets side, bringing it back with Denzel Mims, I think for ceiling. But I also have plenty of Berrios, just thinking the slot, how much they've utilized the slot in weeks past.
Yeah, and then I'll go back to Josh Allen just one more, just because I thought about that as we were on here with Kirkwood, and that's the one that stands out to me a little bit. If New England's not doing much and giving up a little bit here, you could see a big game, and like I said too, with John Brown back, I think that's a bigger deal than many others.
You lean Brown over Diggs there.
I think I'll just play them both, but I think they both help each other out by being there. And like, I just think it makes Allen better and have more opportunities and outs there. And they haven't been the best. And I think that they need Brown back, and Brown's cheap. He's 4,400. Realistically, if you look, I think isn't Diggs like 6,800?
Yeah, he is.
So you can get there, man. And 7,000 is a little bit expensive for Allen, but his ownership's going to be down because of that. So use that. Figure out. We didn't talk a lot about anything on the other side of that game, but
Okay,
I'll
so
find something.
Are we for sure? Is Stephen Gilmore out? Kirkwood.
Stephon
Has he been ruled
Gilmore,
out?
I think I'm pretty sure. I'll bet you he's not playing if he hasn't been.
You know what?
I think something just came out, but I don't know what it is.
Out of like all the weeks that we've done this show, like the more and more that we talk about this Buffalo situation with Josh Allen, like this is like really, I think ownership wise, an unbelievable play. I mean, and paying up for Diggs, get a cheap John Brown. I think a double stack works for sure.
But who's the Patriot that you like? The other
Yeah,
side?
that's the tough part, right? Bringing it back with one of these Patriots. I think Demir Bird would still be my guy. I can't trust Jacoby Myers. Yeah, I'd probably lean on Demir Bird just with his connection with Cam.
Okay, and then I guess it came out. Yeah, it was that he tweaked his knee and had an MRI. So who knows? But probably someone's being traded, so that's possible as well.
All right, are we done?
That's it, man. Let's get it.
All right. Good luck to everyone. Hope you guys win some money. Hope both of you guys win some money, and hope I win some money. So let's crush this week. It's the RG DFS Tournament Takes podcast, and we'll catch you again next week. Thanks.